Hey, so I want to talk about energy. Now, I'm going to kind of get a little metaphysical on this. I want to talk about magnesium, sodium, all of that. Those are like metals, right? And metals are, they conduct electricity. And that is actually how magnetism works, right? I want to emphasize magnesium because there was this podcast that I watched, and basically a lot of Americans tend to be deficient in magnesium, so you should look into that. Do your own research, be responsible for that. But anyways, so that magnetism, right, it creates or generates its own frequency, okay? And so that frequency, think of like a tuning fork. Think of it as a way in which we emit energy, but we also magnetize that same energy, because whatever we're sending out into the world, that has its own frequency. So that's the type of frequency, right, that a tuning fork would then start to attract, okay? Because when you get two tuning forks together, eventually they start harmonizing, and then they start sort of going towards like a specific sort of frequency. I remember learning about that in science. You can look that up. Anyways, back to energy. So I remember that I was talking about energy and it coming in layers, right? So I'm bringing it up because I want this to be kind of a basics. This is a basics for, it's a basics for, manifestations, but it's really the basics for how to embody your life, how to embody and like give you the foundation to change your life, okay? Now, let's talk about fear, and then let's talk about faith. Anytime I ever say faith recently, everybody's like, oh, I'm not really into religion. But really, when you think about it, it's about the unknown, right? When you are approaching the unknown or you're dealing with the unknown, you either handle it with fear, and then everybody's like, I'm not scared, I'm just being safe, right? But that's fear at its root, right? And then faith, okay? Faith is handling it with the unknown, but in a positive light, right? And at the core of it, it's trust. You either don't trust it or you trust it, okay? So faith, take it out of religion and just apply it to energy in that way, all right? Now, when you have faith that things are going to work out, or that God or higher source is going to give you what you need, regardless whether you are envisioning the right thing or not, then it's going to work out. Whereas if you are fearing all this extra stuff is going to happen and all these other bad things might happen, then yeah, that's going to happen, okay? So right there, that is kind of like the intention that you're setting behind whatever it is you're about to do. That energy, okay? And I encourage you to go back to my pond reference on my YouTube that I have. Now, as well, so you've got those two things. You've got a positive and a negative, and I'm sure there's balance between there that you guys could play with. But now you understand kind of that root of what's behind it, okay? Now, I want to kind of go into narcissism, okay? So, I kind of wrote on my blog a little bbit about narcissism and how it's written about, and how I just don't think that it's really well developed. And I'm going to talk about me. I come from a family of enablers, narcissists and co-narcissists, right? Because codependency is the relationship. And I also invite you to check out Tim Fletcher. He does a lot of healing talks on narcissism, but more specifically complex trauma, which narcissism is kind of the root of a lot of the addiction counseling that he does do. And, you know, addiction, it extends past drugs and alcohol. It goes into food. It goes into people. It goes into being a workaholic. So I also invite you to check him out. So part of with this energy that you're trying to embody and send out into the world, yes, I'm no longer going to enable, right? But it's like more than that, right? Like when you peel back the layer, and you know, I'm a nurse. So those of you who are nurses following me, right? It's about encouraging autonomy, right? Is this something I have to do? Is this something I could teach them to do? Or is this something that I don't need to say anything? They're just trying to manipulate the situation. It's discerning whether or not this person really needs help and whether or not I'm appropriate to give that help. That's part of this process in embodying the right type of energy. And again, I'm going to say this, that comes back to that enabling. Do I have a hero complex? Am I looking for validation in some way? It's something you really need to start looking at yourself. I encourage journaling. I've been journaling a lot. I obviously started a blog, but I've been privately journaling on my own as well. And sometimes it's just good to get it out of your head so you can make sense of it. What else? And then also what I found too with the codependency sort of situation is a lot of it has to do with control, right? And one of the prayers that they do at any like Codependency Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous is the Serenity Prayer. And so the Serenity Prayer, it really teaches you, or at least it should teach you if you're paying attention, that you have no control outside of yourself. You can only control yourself. You can only control how you're going to react to how the world has sort of shown up for you, okay? And at the very, very root of it, this is literally teaching the basics of energy. And so I invite you to go back and look at that prayer as well. So once you kind of get a handle on changing how you embody your energy, how you want to show up in this world, then I think that, you know, you're going to have to start looking back at my video with the energy in the pond. You know, your life is going to change. Mine has started to change. I can feel the people coming into my life, their energy is changing. And it's not going to happen quickly at first. It's going to show up slowly. But that doesn't mean whatever you're doing isn't working and give up. It just means that, you know, as you're slowly changing, the world is slowly changing, right? Your world is slowly changing. How you're perceiving the world is slowly changing. Well, I think that's where I'm at. If you guys have any comments or questions, go ahead and put that down below. I invite you to look at my blog. If you have any requests for certain videos or questions regarding energy or balance, do that. I'm going to do my best to respond. All right. Have a good one.